Austin, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Ziad, what a pleasure.
I
Thanks for having me.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Before we start, usually I ask, like, what's your name, how many kids do you have, and what do you do for a living?
Mm-hmm.
But here's a fun fact. Did you know we both went to Richie together?
So my sister filled me in on that, and that's amazing. What a great school.
Isn't that a small world?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Like, for me, it's a full circle because my first day of high school, you came up to us, me and my cousin.
No. Okay. So there is a connection. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And you said, I have math class and like, I don't have a ruler. Can I borrow your ruler? And we lent you our ruler.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I should be thanking you.
By the way, you owe me a ruler.
Okay.
We
Right
never
back.
got it
No
back.
problem. It's okay. Got lots of them.
So I think it's such a full circle that this is even happening.
I didn't even know that. That's so cool.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Go for it. Totally, man. A little lint. Appreciate you, buddy. What more do I want than that?
Exactly.
Full
Little lint.
service
We'll get
house
rid
here.
of that.
What's your name? How many kids you have, and what do you do for a living?
So my name is Austin Poole. I have one beautiful 6-year-old daughter, and I'm a vice principal at a Toronto high school.
Awesome. So I guess before we even get into that, how did you get into being a childhood actor?
So the way it worked is when I was growing up, I was always like a character, as they would call you, a ham. I would do these, shows with family members and, dance, perform, sing, whatever it was. And it was actually family friend who we call Aunt D, Aunt Dolores. She found an article in the Toronto Star, and it was for rising stars or kids that are interested in acting. And so, we tried it out. It was a summer program, and mom and dad signed me up. It was the entirety of the summer. I did this. It was an acting school, and then within it, there was an acting agency, and they took the one or two top stars, the rising star, and they signed them on as the agency. And I started auditions, and my third audition was Billy Madison.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Do you have to pay for these schools?
So yeah, it was like a summer. Like imagine it was like a summer camp,
okay,
but it was geared towards acting. They took you through, how to read lines, how to do, commercial sketches, and things like that. A lot like it was meant to be fun, right?
Cool.
That was the main purpose of it. But it really fueled my interest and passion and carried forward with my interest in performance and acting.
How old were you?
So at that time it would have been. Summer 90, so 93. So I would have been 8 years old.
How does an 8-year-old be able to just start memorizing lines and start being an actor?
I think interest in. I was mentioned I was always a performer, but I think interest in I love school. So I owe reading lines. I owe reading lines to my sister who you met.
Yeah.
She taught. I always say my sister is the one who taught me how to read. Right. We spent a summer doing that. I was very comfortable in front of people. I was very comfortable in front of whether it was a camera or performing, and that it's not something that my parents did, but they pushed us to be, try a little bit of everything. I loved sports, I loved music, I loved performance, and it was a part of the full circle. So I gravitated towards those, performing.
It's like
performing arts. Really enjoyed it.
So natural.
Yeah, it was. It was. You hit it. It was absolutely a natural thing, and I still use those transferable skills. I still use those skills today.
Of course.
Right.
So you auditioned for Billy Madison. Did they tell you like what the role was?
So no. So I don't think I don't imagine they had a name, but yeah, I auditioned for the role, and it was. A really cool process, right? Because, I was brand new to it. You go to these auditions, generally, they're after school. They bring you in casting directors, you're reading lines. And, as a kid, it's not always about your acting prowess or your performance. It's about a look.
Okay.
And in this case, they were looking for a husky kid. And, had some, I guess, it's pretty funny and the way I delivered lines. And that's it. I got the role. I mean, it was the first thing. I mean, I had auditioned for anything that might have been filmed in Toronto, from the Santa Claus with Tim Allen to all these other Toronto-based film movies that were filmed in Toronto. And then this was a big one in '94. This was Billy Madison, and off I went onto this journey in the summer of 1994, filming Billy Madison. 28 days on set. Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, MacDonald, all the big names.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What was it like working alongside Adam Sandler?
What a joy. So there's, as you know, in the movie, a lot of kids,
Yep.
a lot of kids involved in the movie. So he was welcoming a 28-year-old guy, rather new, on the scene. He'd been in SNL for some time, and this was his first big film. He did the movie Airheads before that, and then this was the next big thing. And he was great. He was a nice man. Really, worked with the kids, made time to say hello to us. But I was fortunate. I was a principal actor, and I wasn't an extra because I had lines and particular scenes. And he would go out of his way, to make the kids, myself, and there's a few other main character kids in the movie, just feel really welcome and comfortable. Like I was a kid, so to me it was, and I love to perform, so that's just what I did. It was really natural to me, right? And it was a time where. I'll never forget that. Mom was on set, my sister was on set. From time to time, my dad would be there. And what an experience! You're treated like some piece of royalty. People would drive me places. If you needed something to eat, you have that. When we first started the movie, the process of the movie, you do something called read-throughs, and it's not around anymore. But we did them at the Sutton Place Hotel, really cool hotel, and I vividly remember. You going, in the top floors, they got, a conference room there, and everybody's around a table, and you're reading through the lines. And here I am, reading in lines with, Adam Sandler. The writers are there. Tim Herlihy, who writes a lot of Adam Sandler's stuff. Norm MacDonald, Chris Farley, Mark Beltzman, like these names. And I mean, I don't really know exactly who they are, but you act natural, you act really cool. Food's available to you. And a tidbit of that process was, I remember I always like sharing this story, is that there's a scene in the movie where I burped the ABCs, right? And that wasn't actually written in the movie until we did this read through. So I happened to be drinking ginger ale, and I'm like, I'm an 8-year-old or 9-year-old kid. Hey Adam, let me show you what I can do. And I go A, B. I start burping the ABCs. And he's like, that's good, and lo and behold. Wasn't in the read through script, scene in the movie.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so there's an example of it. It just came natural. Like I was outside of my comfort zone. I didn't think it was anything different. I just had fun with it, and that was the real deal with this acting. It was meant to be fun. The minute it wasn't fun anymore, it wasn't going to be for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you end up meeting Chris Farley?
I did. I threw the sandwich at Chris Farley.
Oh yes, you're right. You're right. Did you guys talk outside of that scene?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I have a great story of Chris Farley too. So, Chris, as we learned, is like to party, right?
Yeah.
And you don't think about these things now. Like when you're 8 or 9 years old, you don't think about it. But I remember, we're doing the bus scene where I throw the sandwich to the bus driver, who's Chris, and that was actually out in Oshawa, and we had all the trailers set up in some area in Oshawa, and I wanted to get a picture of him. Well, there he is in his trailer. I knock on his trailer. I say, hey, Chris, can I get a picture with you? He's like, I'm sleeping. Well, 9-year-old kid. I said, well, how long are you going to be sleeping for? It's so then he does, as a Chris Farley would do. I vividly remember him reaching over, ripping down like a set of drapes, and like doing a whole Chris Farley slapstick thing, rolling out of the bed, coming out. And if you could see the picture, it's just him, like a flat affect face, me, and then Jared Cook, who was the other, who played Ernie in the movie. You're literally, cheerful, smiling with Chris Farley. And that was my favorite picture of Chris Farley. But then, when it came time to shoot, full of energy, normal, the guy that you would expect when you first meet him. Really friendly guy, don't get me wrong. But he was definitely as advertised, or as we would see him in, as we learned about him over time. Yeah.
So you finish Adam's Billy Madison.
Mm-hmm.
What does that feel like? Do you guys feel sad that it's over? Do you look forward to the next big thing?
I think at that time it was like we were kind of on the rise, and the next thing was I did a few things with the Saturday Night Live folks. So after Billy Madison, off to Tommy Boy, right? Another Chris Farley.
Yeah.
Reconnected again, and It wasn't a sadness. It was like, okay, I thought it was awesome. It's really cool. Let's move on to the next thing, right? Because you move on to these auditions, and you're certainly not gonna get everything that you auditioned for. And thank God for my mother and my dad and driving me around the city of Toronto to go to these auditions. And I didn't feel a whole lot of disappointment that I didn't get it. Right. I just thought, okay, well, I'll do it again. On to the next. That positive attitude. That's what I had. Is again, I loved it. I was a kid, so it did it for fun, and that was. So you moved on. I'm not going to be sad. We'll get the next one. Right.
So how much? Because Tommy Boy, obviously Chris Farley was in it. Is it where they said, okay, we really want Austin in this movie? Or isn't like you saw?
So I auditioned again.
You still had to audition,
absolutely. And in that role, literally, I put my face against the glass window, and Rob Lowe, hit me in the face, and that was that, right? And I auditioned pretending to make faces and tongue out and all that, and that was the audition. I couldn't tell you whether I remember that kid from. That was 95 was Tommy. I remember that kid in Adam Sandler's movie. I don't know if it was the same casting director. I wouldn't know that. But, over time, I started to think, well, Dirty Work was another one with the Saturday Night Live crowd. I was just started to think, am I a familiar face from now on?
That's kind of what I thought. I thought maybe someone put in the word, and it was just because Adam Sandler always picks kind of the same cast.
You're right.
He uses the same cast. Mm-hmm. So that was my number one question for you was were you part of, the group where you were just, or it was just by luck?
I think it was just I really just think it was by luck. I now that I think about it, but maybe not. In the 1995 Tommy Boy, yes. I think it was by luck. Maybe the Dirty Work, I don't know. Or maybe it was just a matter of convenience that we film a lot of these things in Toronto.
Yeah.
Right. Because I always remember when I was going to these auditions, it was the same kids. It was the same profile as me, kind of like a husky kid, a little bit more burly, curly hair. Again, I went back, it was the look that they were looking for. So whatever they were looking for, I met that typecast, I guess.
Did you meet Rob Lowe?
Yes. Yeah.
And
yeah.
How was that?
Yeah. That was that. I guess I could say that about everybody I was fortunate enough to work with. They're all nice people.
Cool.
You're a kid, right? And I think I growing up, I would expect that of adults because that's how I felt, about my parents and my family friends and your teachers. That's how adults are. I was always respectful to them, but I would say I'm just a kid. That's what I was brought up in a way where you're always respectful to your adults. That's what I expect from them, is to be fun and cool and respectful of me. And Rob Lowe was he was another great guy.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How long did you have to shoot for that one?
Oh, that was really short. That was a day. That was
Cool.
a day. 28 days for Billy Madison. It was a day for Tommy Boy. And 28 days for Billy Madison was breakfast, lunch, dinner with the cat. I was there. They put us up in a place, and a lot of it was filmed in Oshawa because it was at the Parkwood Estates, where the big Billy Madison house was. And other bits and pieces were in Toronto. So, yeah.
That is cool. Yeah. And then Dirty Work. I've seen it before because I binge watched some of the movies, obviously, before this interview. I didn't have a chance to watch Dirty Work. So what was that like?
So Dirty Work's an interesting one, too. That was portions of that I filmed were here in this neighborhood at some of the studios just across the way. And that I was a little bit older then. Right?
16, and I think you were playing 16.
That's right. Kid. That's right. So I was Artie Lang at 16. Had to wear. He was Artie Lang, rather bigger guy. So I actually had to put on a bodysuit. And I remember having to come in, and that's why I came to the studios every year to try on this bodysuit. And Mom drove me over here, and the director was Bob Saget.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which was really interesting. So imagine I was doing this try on of a bodysuit with Bob Saget. You can see the comments that he was making, some sly comments, that jokes around my mom, who just probably wouldn't get them at all, But, being a little bit older, I sort of knew, with some fat jokes and things like that, because I'm putting on this bodysuit. But imagine that, Bob Saget, right? Chevy Chase met these Artie Lang met see Norm Macdonald yet again, right? Who, I remember high-fived when we were shooting a shot because he's like, oh, I remember you. And that was like so cool.
so
and then you
cool.
get older, right? And now at this time, I'm at I'm at Richview, right? And this time, like how cool am I? I'm kind of on top of the world here. I'm feeling really great. That was another cool experience for me.
Have you ever spoken to Adam Sandler since that shoot?
No, I get that question a lot. I haven't. Obviously, it's like, oh, do you just? I don't have a whole lot of social media, but it's like, can you Instagram? Do you message him? I mean, and people think, oh, when's Billy Madison 2 coming out? I mean, that's a classic film. We've got Happy Gilmore 2 coming out.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I haven't thought to reach out to him. I wouldn't even know where to start. Right? I wouldn't even know where to start. I walked away from acting just because, as I said, I got into it because it was fun. And when you're, in high school and you're an OAC and, you're starting, becoming, your young man, it was starting to get in the way of doing, what an OAC student would do on a Friday night. Instead of going on audition, you kind of want to go out with your friends and to a party or whatever it was, right? And I played football at Richie. That was really cool. That was a great experience for me. That's kind of how I ended up walking away from it.
On your own terms.
It was on my own terms, right? It was a wonderful time in my life. Like, what a great journey, what a great experience. Lots of stories, memories, right? Not only just for myself, but with my family as well, friends too. Having these watch parties. I mean, we rented out. My parents rented out one of the theaters, just one of the theaters at Queensway Movie Theater to watch the premiere. We did our own little premiere at Billy Madison. I was able to go to a premiere of Billy Madison Toronto, like all that kind of stuff, right? Like, think about a 9-year-old kid.
Totally.
Yeah, going into these, with other actors going to these premieres, right? I never did anything outside of Ontario.
Yeah.
Everything was here, but I mean, Toronto is Hollywood North. Yeah. So we know, and what an experience.
Have you? I know your daughter. She's young still. Have you watched any of the movies with her?
I have, yeah. I mean, she gets a kick out of it. That it's dad, like trying to see dad as this like young, little bit of a lisp, the today junior kid, throwing sandwiches at the bus driver, getting hit in the face by Rob Lowe. Like, she gets a kick out of it. I did a film, It Takes Two, with the Olsen Twins. That's a little bit more of something that she would connect a little bit more with. So she's watched that one. But yeah, she's seen a little bit. I wouldn't show her dirty work yet.
Yeah, okay.
I think that one's a little...
How is working with the Olsen Twins? Because when I looked up, it's so hard to find information about you. It's so incomplete.
And there's a method to my madness. I think that's just given what I do.
Yeah.
I after university, actually, even while I was in teachers college, I sort of wiped out the social media scene, and at that time it was really just Facebook.
Sure.
So got rid of that. So it is. I intentionally like to make it that way. It's hard, and I love to share these stories with people because these are good. These are great conversations. But yeah, I never saw the need for it of social media, especially given you're in education and you kind of just want to keep a low profile on that one. But with It Takes Two, Olsen Twins, very protected. I didn't get a lot of time with them, right? I worked with one of them. I couldn't tell you which one because they looked exactly, they were identical twins, right? But that was was an experience. I met Kirstie Alley. I had more time with Kirstie Alley. Again, like you think about it, and I mentioned Norm Macdonald, Chris Farley, Kirstie Alley. All these people have passed too.
Yeah,
and that's something that I think about. Like, wow, how fortunate I'm working on with these are film and TV legacies, royalty, whatever you want to call them. So my interactions with them were very, very, there wasn't a whole lot of time with them. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to answer this, but roughly, what would a childhood actor like you back in the day get paid for like a scene like this? Rough.
We did okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like it was. I always like to say it helped me get along through university.
Great.
I think the values of family and we that was important. Education has always been important. So, we put that money aside. It's not like we spent, or I did for that matter. And, I was very fortunate. Both my parents were able to provide, all the opportunities and experiences for me. And this was kind of my money that I had aside that would support me through university, and they still had to support me through university as well. We went, we did a trip to Florida. I remember one year that we used some of that money, and it was great. My mom and I were just talking about that not too long ago. That when the first big check came in, we used that. We took the family to Orlando for Disney, the trip to Disney. Absolutely, that's exactly what that money was meant for, right? And now what I find crazy now is I'm still getting residual checks.
I was just going to ask you if you get royalties.
I do. I get residual checks, and it's interesting. Post film, like we're talking about, this is the VHS era. We were just moving into DVDs when we were getting to the 90s, right? So residual is not so much. You get your theater residual money, and then a DVD and the video cassette sales, and then it was a lull for a bit, and then streaming came.
But where can we stream Billy Madison?
It's
not on Netflix.
I don't know. I mean, and interesting. Why? I mean, he's Mr. Netflix, Adam Sandler. I don't know. Nowadays I have no idea where you could stream it. I mean, I still have one video cassette kicking around.
Of course.
Whatever streaming platform has it on. I have no idea.
But you still get checks.
I do, and that's where like there was this lull, and then streaming came along. It's like, oh wow, I'm making a little bit more money, and you make a percentage based off of what your contribution to that film is. So Billy Madison, you make every 6 months to a year, you make a good chunk of change, and that's because of streaming.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I've had checks for like 42 cents because that was what the amount of time I had. On Tommy and Tommy Boy, for example, you get a check for 42 cents, or It Takes Two, 67 cents. And they used to send me actual physical checks, and then they moved into direct deposit.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it go to so I was going to ask, does it go to an estate, will you always, is it after life you even get these royalties?
As long as the film's being, shown, streamed, yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I was part of the Actors Union. I'm not part of the Actors Union anymore. I don't pay my dues, but I still have RSP through the Actors Union. So whenever you get a check, portion goes there, and then a portion, the rest of it comes to me. And because I don't pay union dues, everybody gets a little bit. They get their fair share, right? Okay. Agents, I don't carry an agent either anymore, so they would get a piece as well.
Did you have an agent when you were filming Billy Madison?
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did. Yeah, throughout the whole thing.
And they take how much is it percent?
That's a great question. I would have. I would have.
So young.
That's a really good. I would have no idea.
Fair enough. Your parents, I'm sure.
I bet if we asked them today, they would have no idea either.
Yeah.
But it was. I mean, obviously, being a part of a unionized member, it's right. There's regulations.
Okay.
It's regulated. So, and I would imagine that's still the case today. So I couldn't tell you a percentage, but they got their fair share for sure.
That's cool.
Right, for representation. Right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And you never had to miss school because you did in the summer?
So, anytime there was a bigger film, like Billy Madison, for example, everything was done in the summertime, right? So I always say the summer '94. That was when we did Billy Madison. I missed school here and there, but never for a significant amount of time. The only time I remember having a teacher on set was It Takes Two, and again, lots of kids, right? So all it was me taking my schoolwork from school and bringing it, and they had a teacher there that could help you along with it.
How much of an impact did your parents have with you being an actor?
Their encouragement. I think they encouraged me to do whatever it is I wanted to do. I always think about how my parents wanted both my sister and I to be well-rounded. So whether it was, I was involved in sports, or I meant education was really important. Grades, marks, all that was really important to my parents. We felt pressure. Of course we did, right? But because they wanted the best for us. And I think that in turn that's part of my values today. I see that with my students. I want that for my students. I want that for my daughter. But ultimately, whatever path we chose was our choice. So there was no pressure to push me forward into further acting. There was never that. They encouraged me to do what I enjoyed to do. And alongside that, whether it was on set one weekend, the following weekend I might have been playing baseball, or I was out with my friends, or I played the double bass. I got involved in all the activities at school, because that's what makes a well-rounded person. And I'm a true believer in that with, as I said, my current students and my daughter as well.
Amazing.
She's doing all the things I expect. I want her to. She's bright as a light. She's the kindest young lady. She just started guitar lessons, right? Cool. This morning we were at dance. We had ballet this morning.
Too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's because that's totally important when we're raising kids. You want them to be successful in everything, but that's really hard to do.
Of course.
And but you have to expose them to everything, and that's what I think about my childhood. Is I was exposed to so many things, and some of them took, some of them not so much. That's how I see. That's how I promote and support my students now. That's what I'm looking to do with Olivia as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for parents who want to get their kids into acting? What are some things they need to know? Yeah,
that's a really good question. I think, because I always saw it as fun, is it's really got to be something that the child is passionate about. And we can say that about anything, but they have to be passionate about it. So, I don't think you need a ton of, helicoptering on that. I didn't have that. It was just, I think, for me, when I was a drama teacher for some time too, is when I was always tell the kids is what worked for me is, the best actor is the one that can act natural. And that was just me, because I didn't go out of character. I didn't create a character for myself, because when you're a kid, just be you, right? If you're a ham, if you're funny, if you have then that's you. Be you, right? So my tip to parents is just encouragement, right? Explore different avenues. Don't say no to things. Try everything out, right? Have them go to auditions. We went to every audition, and it was a lot. So be prepared for parents. You're going to be driving around the city of Toronto. I don't know if that's how it works now, but maybe even virtual or filmed auditions exist. And that wasn't something. We always went to a place and here's the lines. Get involved in it too. Practice the lines. I remember my mom was always doing that with me. My sister would do it with me as well. That's important, right? You want to have. That's how you help memorize. Is you have somebody working alongside you. It's. I think my main tip is just make sure that it's fun, and the minute it's not, then move on to something else. Because I always said it's the 1% of the 1% that actually make it that big. It's the truth, right? If we want to be that big, if we want to be the Adam Sandlers of the world, like that's the 1%. The man's a billionaire, right? Yeah. I mean, he's Mr. Netflix. He's amazing, and I can think about him at 28 in 1994 of a genuine guy, and I think that's what he would say his upbringing was from his parents. If I've listened to some things from him, he said, I had great parents. They were good. They encouraged me. That's what you need to do, and he had fun with it.
That's right? So cool.
Yeah.
Everyone always called me Adam Sandler. They said I always looked like him a little bit.
I'm not gonna lie to you. You do.
Yeah,
you do.
So
I'd for sure. For sure.
Richu.
Yes.
How was your experience? And then we'll start there. How was your experience?
I loved it.
Yeah.
There's a reason I'm in education now. I always say I never left school. Right. Cool. I literally never left school from junior kindergarten. Right. I've always been in school. Richu is a great experience. It's a fantastic school. Now, I work in the school system now. But that particular school is fantastic. It offered all of the things. I was in the French immersion program. That's how I got there, because I didn't live in area, so I would take the bus up there. But from grade 9 to OAC, fantastic teachers, staff. I mean, administrators and office staff. It was a great place to be in the late 90s, early 2000s. What a fantastic place. I played football. I was in all the theater shows. Right, again, that whole well-rounded piece. I didn't win valedictorian, but I was runner-up on that. Really involved. So for me, high school was a great place. I absolutely love school. I was involved in the student council. I had that typical high school the high school guy that you would see in movies, right? It's funny. Like he played football. He was in the theater shows. He did, he was on student council. I got involved. And why? My parents encouraged that. Get involved. Do a little bit of everything, right? I had fantastic friends. A lot of my friends are still, alongside me today. We just celebrated our 40th birthday. We were over in Arizona, playing golf and having a great time, and those are all boys from Richview.
Do you remember the Longos?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was their neighbor.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Yeah. So Leah was the closest in age.
Awesome. Leah was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
I'd be walking home and she'd pull up to the side of the curb and get in, we'll go take you home.
Absolutely. Yeah. So they were, and that's Richview's, you meet a lot of people from Richview. It's one of those spots. It's a great school. It's a great community. Yeah. Right. Had a lot of fun. Islington and Eglinton community.
Totally. I actually just ran into Leah at Sherwood Gardens.
There you go.
That's such a small world. So at what point did you know you wanted to be a vice principal?
So I think it starts with becoming a teacher.
Okay.
And, I mentioned at the beginning, education is highly valued in our household. My sister was very also on that same path, right? She was she was brilliant. She had, we weren't math science people. We were, the arts, languages, social sciences, humanities side. We had that side of the brain. But funny enough, both my dad is, he's a sheet metal worker, but phenomenal at math. He was really strong at that. My mom was, was a registered nurse and a nurse manager, and moved on to do some things in hospital foundations. And so she had a science background. But that wasn't Devin and I. We didn't have that. So when I was navigating high school, math became progressively more difficult for me. But we were both in the French immersion program, so we liked the languages. We both worked really, really hard. I always said nothing often came very natural to me in education. I had to work hard, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I found that always, the French language was something I gravitated towards. History was a passion of mine. But I wanted to head off into the world of business, but I wasn't strong at math. Took a lot of business courses, loved those, did excel at those, but there was no math attached to it. So once I had taken, it was finite math at that point, and my final mark on that was 51. And today they call that data management. I just knew that wasn't going to be my path. So I saw myself, using those transferable skills of being an actor and being in front of people and feeling comfortable and always enjoying working with kids. You talked about me giving you a ruler. I was involved in all the leadership opportunities. You remember Muskoka Woods, I'm sure, and we went up to Albion Hills. So I always did those. I was always one of the leaders up there. So I liked leading. I liked being in front of people. I liked the performance. I liked delivery of learning. So from there, from Richview, I went off to Bishop's University. I'm very proud of Bishop's grad.
Where's that?
It's in it's just outside of Sherbrooke. It's in Lennoxville, Quebec.
Okay.
So it's just outside of Sherbrooke, Quebec. It's about call it 7 hours easterly of us up into Quebec and the eastern townships. Beautiful school. Very small though. Okay. When I was there, it was only about 2,000 students there. It's a really small university, bilingual as well. but initially, what took me there was, I mentioned I played football at Ritchie. Well, that's how I landed there. Was I played some football, so I ended up playing football for a short while there. Again, I pursued, my major was in history, my minor was in dramatic arts, and I hadn't sort of gone down the path yet of teaching because I wasn't in the concurrent program, but I was thinking about, like, that was always in the back of my mind. So in my fourth year, I applied to many different teachers' colleges. I got accepted to one, and that was Trent University, and I did my teachers' college a year there, and with both my for secondary, that is, so for high school, and it was history and dramatic arts for my two teachables. From Trent, I started to do occasional teaching work. I started at Martin Grove Collegiate.
Cool.
Started doing supply teaching there for a bit. And then it was my first, they had a halftime history, law, I think library job that I took on. And then, that I carried on from there. I went to a few other locations, schools. And eventually down the road, I took on some leadership positions. The head of, I was a guidance counselor for quite some time at one school, and then I was, taught drama, history, and I took on some leadership roles. So I was the head of guidance at one school, I was the head of special education at another. I always had a passion for education. Awesome. Or special education, that is. And
okay,
education.
great.
And then I moved on into experiential learning as well. So cooperative education, high school to college transitions, apprenticeships, and eventually, I had a pretty broad, skill set, right? I took a lot of different qualifications to keep me when I was coming up through teaching. Is like I pretty much got surplused every year, right? I would be surplus to my school every year. So what often be used is to keep you around is you take different qualifications. So I have, I'm a librarian. I have, qualifications in law, guidance, special education, and that kept me alive at schools. And I think all that led me towards becoming an administrator. I loved leading. I loved teaching students, obviously, but I also had a passion for, leading the instructional program with teachers. I always like putting together initiatives within the school that not only supported students but supported the staff as well, and that's what eventually led me to applying for an administrator, and that's where I have landed as a vice principal now. And it's what a great role. Like I wake up every morning and I do, like, I couldn't see myself in another job. I love being a teacher. I love being a vice principal. Obviously, aspirations to one day be a principal.
Awesome.
But I couldn't see myself in a different role. I'm sure I could do other things, but I really just love my job.
So is being a vice principal, like, what does that entail? You said administrative stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does it entail? So I'm overseeing not only just the students in the building, but I'm overseeing the staff as well. Cool. So, my particular role, because I'm in secondary, one of my big responsibilities is timetabling the school.
Okay.
Yeah, so I get to build the timetable based on, the number of students that we have, the courses that they choose, and that determines the amount of staff that we have to allocate to those different classes. So that's kind of like, a puzzle, right? And you get to put together this great puzzle and hope that it, really works for the building. In some of the other parts of the job, I'm not doing this year, but you work on achievement. Marks coming in, getting a report card set up, supporting in that role. But there's other things to that job too. It's working with the kids, right?
That's cool.
It's checking in on kids. There's some parts of the job that aren't so great either, right? Sure. But it's as an administrator, you're making sure that the day-to-day life of the school is operating in a smoothly. I think I can speak, to how we do it at my school. We do a fantastic job, but it's not just the 3 administrators, myself and my 2 administrative partners. It's fantastic staff, right? My school has a fantastic school council with parent community, and the kids are great. Awesome. Like it's a joy. Like I truly do love my job.
Amazing. What more do you want than that?
Nothing,
right?
like nothing more. It's great. Yeah.
My wife also went to Trent.
Yes.
And then she was also a vice principal.
Okay.
And then now she's a teacher.
Yeah. And I get that, right? Yeah. I think there are times you get into that role, and I know lots of colleagues that were in the vice principal and they were an administrator, and they went back to teaching just because they didn't love it, and they missed the kids.
Yeah,
that's the one part that I get to see these kids on an individual basis. I get to visit classes. I get to see all the fantastic things that you're doing, but I'll tell you the part that I do miss is I make connections with kids for sure. I make those close connections with kids, but they're not as close as you would if you were the classroom teacher or the coach, for example. I did a ton of coaching throughout I coached football at all the school for years. I did the drama shows, right? It was so all those things that I did as a high school student. Yeah. Now I was overseeing as a teacher and a coach and a director of, and like again, what better things do you want to do, right? I'm basically following the same path that I had in high school. I'm doing that as a teacher, and now I have the opportunity to lead some things at a school, that I've had some experience in, right? We have my school. We have had a successful sports season, football and basketball. We're just getting ready for our theater show at our school right now. And we are a school that's phenomenal, high achievers. I always say one of the best parts of my job as an administrator is to hand the kids the diploma as they cross by, because I get to see, and this is a special year for me this year, because at the school that I'm at, where I started, as an administrator, these kids are now graduating, and so I've seen them full circle from grade 9 to grade 12. And this group is going to be really a nice, and they're a lovely group of kids. They all are.
Yeah,
but
sure.
This group is a special group because I've seen them full circle grow and develop from being, grade 9s now into these really mature, grade 12 students that are, ready to move on.
Yeah.
The next step of their life. And, hopefully they have the same experience. They had the same experience that I had in high school.
Cool. Mm-hmm. I got to correct myself because my wife actually now is an LSC teacher and does admissions. So she's got the best of both worlds. She specializes helping kids with dyslexia.
Amazing.
Yeah. So because we watched the podcast together, she's going to be like, why did you say that? Why did
it's all,
so I gotta fix myself.
all good. I mean, the day to day, I mean, the world of education, teachers are phenomenal people.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you do, right? Administrators are, at least in my experience, they're all teachers at one point. So they're good people. I'm absolutely a fan of this profession. I think it's a phenomenal profession.
It's good to have somebody like you. You're obviously contributing a lot. So,
I hope so.
Yeah. So how's Parenthood? Like, is it what you expected it to be?
100%.
Okay.
I find what a joy. We have one child, and we're only that was always the plan as one, and we can't beat perfection. So my little Olivia is just a fantastic kid. She's the epitome of kindness. That's I don't my wife and I don't have to do a whole lot in terms of helicopter parenting. She comes by a lot of things naturally. She's an amazing kid. I mentioned before that this was a really tough kind of, I call it school year, but October 27th we had to put her in a hospital.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she we had noticed for a few weeks that there's increased urination. There's something wrong with her, right? But it wasn't something. But she was still eating normally. There's a lot of normality to her. A little bit lethargic here and there, and we had to put her into the hospital because she went into DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. My mother-in-law is a type 1 diabetic. It's genetic. And putting her in the hospital was really tough. Those were the worst 3 days of my life. So that, as in terms of parenting, ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
This was tough, And knowing now that it's type 1 diabetes, it's something that can be managed. It's a well-funded disease, and we know lots about it. And she has a fantastic care team. She has her diet buddy, who's her grandmother.
Awesome.
All these things. It's like, we got out of the hospital. We jumped into. You just had to keep carrying on with the life that we have. It was just a bit of a ripple. She's continues to be that same kind, grateful, amazing kid. Like I'm just so I'm so lucky. And a product of that is we're they often call me Turbo Dad. Like I'm the dad.
Like
that not that I'm worried she's gonna fall or anything, but I'm just so involved. I love getting involved, right? Like I want, if there's performance, I'm hooting and hollering. Like I'm that dad.
Cool.
Whatever she's doing, I want to be heavily involved with it. But what the true balance is that she is her mom. Like my wife Alexis is phenomenal. Like those two. My wife does a lot of the after school and the care, because I'm in the city and I'm commuting back and forth.
Of course.
And I carry later hours, and that's hopefully that'll change over time. But they thank goodness for my wife. Like the two of them have a fantastic bond. I often say they are the same person. Olivia is so artistic, and my wife is so artistic, and they have a lot of the same just the same mannerisms. They're split image of each other. People would say my daughter often looks a lot like me, which that's great. But I just see my wife, and she's and she's every bit of the best parts of my wife, and I think she's some of the best parts of me too.
Does she work? Your wife?
She does, yeah.
So how do you guys manage that?
So fortunately, because I live out in Whitby, my wife works not too far away from where we live. She's a salon director.
Awesome.
At Valentino's Grande Salon. She's been a hairstylist her whole life.
Oh,
Focus
awesome.
on hair color. She actually used to work down in the beaches here and then moved up there. She started as a colorist at the salon and has since become the salon director. She's a boss.
Very cool.
She's a boss. She's a phenomenal leader. And again, it's like whatever, please, Olivia, pick up on many of things that your dad does, but pick up on a lot of the things your mom's doing. My wife is a phenomenal leader, and a great mother. So I'm very lucky. I have two fabulous girls in my life.
Amazing.
Like really, really lucky. Yeah.
Who does like lunches, dinners? How do you guys manage like every day?
That's Alexis.
Cool.
I wish there was more. I mean, we have a great system.
Yeah.
And added layer is the diabetes piece, right?
Yeah.
And what's on the horizon soon is that she's also been diagnosed with celiac. So
okay. So what does that mean for people who don't know?
For diabetes,
and both.
So for type 1 diabetes means she's insulin dependent.
Okay.
So for the rest of her life, she has to take insulin to keep her at a proper level, because our pancreas, it's the one that creates the insulin for us. Her pancreas is shut down, doesn't work anymore. So in order to ensure that she doesn't go too high with her blood sugar, right? This is the reason why she initially went to the hospital, is her blood sugar was far too high. We have to put insulin. She has to have an injection of insulin to keep her at a level. But if you have too much insulin, then you go low, and when you go low, that's where you can there's impact to that too. You can pass out. This can lead to death as well, right? So it's one of those things. It's scary. Like it's scary.
Yeah,
like we were, but manageable, right? It's not that there's major athletes and celebrity. The type 1 diabetes is it's a well-funded, well-known disease, but it's an added layer to our life. And when we're making lunches, we have to make sure that we've got a balanced lunch that has an appropriate amount of carbs. We have to liaise with the school, because if she's up high or low, she has a phenomenal teacher, a phenomenal school staff that support her, as well as a care team at the Charles H. Best Diabetes Center in Brooklyn. Fantastic. And she has to get insulin at lunchtime, so she has a nurse come in.
Oh,
insulin,
wow.
yeah.
Is it part of the school?
It's actually outside of that. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't pay for it. It's a we don't pay for
Government
anything. But yeah,
funded?
absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot, and that's another positive is that there's a lot of government funded. Like diabetes supports. The diabetics are supported, is what I'm trying to say. So we've been very fortunate that we have a great team.
I don't know if you know this, but Max Domi also
Yes.
is, and he has a podcast out now where he talks about it.
Yeah.
Really
And I did, and you know, I saw him do it. Actually, Olivia knows this because we watched an advertisement of Max Domi and Dexcom, which is the continuous
it.
glucose monitor that she wears all the time.
She's a brave one to like have to do that every day.
You know, and that's the thing. There's so many kids. I mean, there's kids that are diagnosed diabetic when at you know, early on at birth, right? And,
For sure.
and they're dealing with it. So yeah, she's super brave, and every day she surpasses something new when it comes to diabetes. You know, we're you know, pulling, like she's poked 4 times. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's nobody likes needles.
No,
Nobody
not at
likes
all.
needles, honestly. And she takes 4 a day, and she takes them.
Wow.
Like, she's just an amazingly brave kid, resilient.
Go Olivia, go.
Yeah, like
That's awesome,
like
man.
awesome. Yeah, truthfully. Yeah.
Cool. We're gonna do trivia because we're running out of time.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna call it Kick or Keep.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna bust out a few
Okay. Kick.
movies, and you can tell me which one you
Okay,
like.
got it.
So Toy Story or Jumanji?
That's tough. That's starting off tough. So just so I understand the rules here, I have to kick one and keep one.
Yeah, you
So
can say Toy Story or Jumanji.
I'm gonna say, oh man, Jumanji. Just watched it the other day with Olivia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Sixth Sense or Blair Witch Project?
Oh, Sixth Sense. I can't. I'm not a horror guy.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Speed or The Matrix?
Speed.
Cool. Miss Doubtfire or The Mask?
Oh, Miss Doubtfire.
All right.
Heartbeat. Both great.
Yeah.
So,
Classics. Fresh Prince or Saved by the Bell?
man, Saved by the Bell.
All right. Home Improvement or Boy Meets World?
Home Improvement.
Flintstones or Meet the Jetsons?
Flintstones.
And Billy Madison or Tommy Boy?
Oh gosh. You know what? Billy Madison.
Billy
I was gonna
Madison?
say both. I don't know. Billy
Totally.
Madison. Yeah.
Okay. How we usually end the podcast, I ask you 2 questions.
Sure.
If you can have any artist, dead or alive, perform at your wedding, who would it be?
Man. Stevie Wonder.
Cool.
Yeah, Stevie Wonder. We're big. My wife and I were big. You know, like soul music. You know, I'm always an old soul when it comes to music. And you know, one of the first and few concerts we saw together was Stevie Wonder.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If you can invite anybody on the podcast from your circle, who would it be?
That to sit alongside me and have a chat. In my social circle. Or?
Yeah, somebody who I would invite from your social circle.
Oh golly. Trying to think. Wow. You know what? Like, I think it would be great to speak with a good friend of mine, and a great, you know, this is my best friend. I think it'd be great to speak to Adam Gage.
Cool.
Business owner, hockey dad.
Oh, awesome.
And my best friend, and a guy who's he's been through it, and you know, one of my best friends since kindergarten.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
We're doing like a semi-private. I rented the Ford Performance Center,
Oh yeah, his kids play out of there all the time.
and we're hosting like a free family skate. I know you
cool.
live in Whitby, but feel free if you have time. and
Maybe
invite-
my brother-in-law and his
Totally.
and my
They're
sister.
They're coming.
There you go.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So they would be the perfect people.
Awesome. Did anyone ever tell you look like Seth Rogen?
Seth Rogen, yes, and who's the other one? It was in the heavier guy.
Was it Superbad?
You got it.
Yeah.
What's
I
the
see.
other-
I
what's
don't
his-
remember his
I
name.
can't.
Oh, the guy who was in also Wolf of Wall Street.
I can't. I don't know why I
Yeah.
can't remember his name, but yes,
Cool.
I get that all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler, if you're watching this, we got Austin Poole on the podcast, man. It was a pleasure to have you, man. I really
Really
appreciate
a
you coming
pleasure.
all the way
Yeah.
down here.
Oh, my pleasure. It
That
was
this is
amazing.
the coolest thing ever.
I
I really
I
loved
hope
it.
so. I hope
loved
so.
it. Thanks again. I
Yeah.
really
Thanks again.
appreciate it.